Okay, Tuesday, September 7th. There's a few things going on. One thing that isn't getting enough attention is the call from Sheldon Whitehouse, the senator, to reopen the investigation, the FBI investigation to Brett Kavanaugh. That initial investigation, was information was sent over to the Trump White House. There's so much of it that we never really uncovered or discussed. It was so rushed, and we never found out who paid his $100,000 country club dues. Who paid his, was it something like $200,000 worth of credit card debt? How did he even amass that? And his like $1 million mortgage was paid off. Doesn't that seem like he's beholden to somebody? And the connection between him and Kennedy and Deutsche Bank and Trump is a little tight. So it would be helpful to understand what all that means. I don't know what people do with that information. It probably would have been helpful at confirmation or prior to confirmation. There is an impeachment process for SCOTUS. I think it's only happened once, but it's the same process for impeaching a president. The House has a trial and then goes to the Senate. And I think the one time that a Supreme Court justice was impeached, the Senate acquitted them. Him, it had to be a him. But at the very least, we need some additional accountability from the Trump era. Along with that, where the hell are we on the January 6th investigation? Margorie Taylor Greene is introducing articles of impeachment against Joe Biden, which is, it shouldn't be laughable. But she doesn't even have a rightful place in Congress as a seditionist, an insurrectionist, and a traitor. Where the fuck are those phone records for threatening telecommunication companies on the House floor last week? She should be censured. Or why do we just let them roll all over everything? And there isn't a lot of time between now and midterms. We need to start laying some cases and some groundwork against these fucking criminals in the GOP. It's very frustrating. And they talk about ending the filibuster to get Supreme Court justices. I would love to add to the Supreme Court. But if we're going to break the filibuster, can we get fucking voting rights passed? If we don't get control over our voting process, we're fucking screwed for a generation, another generation. The GOP cheats. They gerrymander everything to death to try to remain in power so that we can't actually help anybody. The GOP death cult for the last 40 years has been, keep them dumb, keep them sick, and keep them poor. Blame everybody else, and they'll think you're the hero. Pointing the finger at each other, not realizing they're getting raped by the people that they're voting for. It's sickening. But without protecting the vote and allowing people to vote, we're never going to get anywhere in any progress. And we're just going to devolve even further into this spiraling QAnon death cult of crap. So I don't understand why that isn't a higher priority and a bigger immediate concern of people. Accountability for the people who tried to overthrow the government would, I think, be a number one, and making sure that the citizenry can vote. God, it's frustrating. So we have that going on, and mostly people are just talking about, we're still talking about Afghanistan. 13 people died in in Joe Biden's effort to get our military out. Never mind the fact that 130,000 people were removed from the country, airlifted out, and nobody seems. The 13 are a problem who died, the service members. But what about the thousands? What is it, like 1,100 people a day of 1,100 people a day die of COVID, and we're still screaming about, don't make me wear a mask. I saw women today talking about family members and spouses who died, and two women very specifically had like grandparents and parents who died of COVID unvaccinated, and they still insist that they will not get vaccinated. That because they just don't know enough. You know that your loved ones died because they weren't vaccinated, but they wouldn't admit that. It's baffling. But again, it's GOP wisdom at work. Keep them dumb. Make them mistrust you so that they vote for you. Yeah. And in other news, The View came back today to live shows. They're in studio, and the four returning hosts seemed quite jovial with each other. Made fun of each other a little bit. Had a nice time. Disagreed without being insulting or snippy. What a refreshing little bit of television that was. Can't imagine what was missing from the equation